not interested.
Hey guys, Peter Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is your Christian Geek Radar covering the month of February, right? Yeah, February 2019. Looking back at some of the highlights that stand out to me that I want to bring to your attention. First off, just as a reminder, you can follow us on Twitter at Christian_Geek and get a lot more updates than what I'm going to share here. Each week, I kind of share little updates, spotlights on other Christian Geek content creators and news from various parts of Christian geekery, like new books and video games and all that kind of stuff that's coming out from Christian creators. And so anyway, if you want to stay in the know much more than just with this monthly series, then you can go on over to Twitter and follow us at Christian_Geek. Oh, this was cool news. Love Thy Nerd just turned 1 year old, so congratulations to lovethynerd.com for their first big year, and a very big year it was. Lots going on over at that site. Let's see here. Oh, and a new Christian gaming podcast. I mentioned this on the Christian Geek Central podcast a week or so ago, and it is aptly titled A Christian Gaming Podcast. The description on the site reads, a gaming podcast focused on putting God before gaming, being more mindful of our faith while we are gaming news, and more. And it doesn't advertise this, but as a nice change of pace, it is hosted by a female gamer, which I think is really cool and refreshing. And let's see, moving on here. Oh yeah, sorry, you can check that out at Christian... let's see here. What's the site here? It's a. You know what? I'm going to put a link. Here we go. achristiangamingpodcast.com. achristiangamingpodcast.com. Very appropriate. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, our friends over at Strangers and Aliens are releasing a superhero audio drama titled VR, the Superhero Audio Drama. That's episode 306 of the Strangers and Aliens podcast, which you can check out over at strangersandaliens.com. Let's see here. Oh, okay. So this is one that I actually put on our Twitter feed this month. Now and then I choose to highlight something that is made by someone that is not necessarily a Christian geek themselves, and they're not necessarily targeting an audience of Christian geeks, but I still want to point a spotlight on it anyway because I think it's really relevant to Christian geeks. And this time around, it was the YouTube channel for Ravi Zacharias International Ministries, and the video is titled, How Can I Know My Gender? An Evening with Sam Alberry. And I think with LGBTQ issues being such a consistently recurring part of what's going on in geek fiction, whether it's comic books or video games, TV definitely, movies also to some extent, but it's, these issues are all over the place. And so I think it's really worthwhile for us as Christian geeks to know how to engage these issues with both truth and a lot of grace and love. How can we be effective in doing that? How can we understand these issues rightly? And how can we be positioned to be used by God in a gracious, loving, and truthful way in conversations with others about these kinds of issues, whether that's in person or in how we communicate with others online. It's a beefy video. It's 2 hours and 16 minutes long, but it is well worth your time. Put it on while you're playing a video game or something. If you want, you can watch it at 1.5 speed and still get all the content. But I highly recommend carving out some time to check out this video. I think it will be really beneficial to you. So again, that's at that's Ravi Zacharias International Ministries YouTube channel. The video titled "How Can I Know My Gender?" An Evening with Sam Alberry. Let's see. You're moving along over at lovethynerd.com. The Humans of Gaming podcast posted episode 138, which was an interview with Brett Vance, who is marketing Rapture Rejects, which I talked about in my coverage of E3 this last summer. I thought it was really interesting how they seem to be understanding the concept of not just rapture, but specifically salvation. And so I was very surprised to find out that the guy that's in charge of basically marketing this game is a Bible-believing, legit Christian. And so to hear his story, his background in his faith, and what's it like to be working in the environment that he's in, I would highly recommend checking out Humans of Gaming, episode 138, featuring Brett Vance of Rapture Rejects. Let's see here. Over at Christian Gamers Guild, christian-gamers-guild.org, on February 2nd, they posted an article, I guess you would say, of our friends and allies, but really it's a list of links to a bunch of Christian geek content creators of various stripes, and this was it takes a lot of time to put something like this together. I can really appreciate that. We have a massive archive of websites over at christiangeekcentral.com, and so I know how much work is involved in putting that together and curating that kind of list, and they've got a really nice one here. I even added a couple from this list to our archive, and so anyway, it's called Our Friends and Allies over at the Christian Gamers Guild, so I'd recommend that you check that out if you want to just kind of get a better sense of what else is out there for Christian geeks specifically. You might notice a change happening over at christiangeekcentral.com in terms of the type of content going up there. I'm experimenting right now with kind of shining a spotlight on other Christian geek outlets, not just like kind of the news, and major announcements and stuff like that, but say if they're doing a video game review or something like that, particularly something that I'm not going to be covering and don't have time to cover. I want to be able to point you guys to other Christian geek outlets that are creating really nice content. And it's been the mission of Christian Geek Central from the very beginning to be a creator of and a gateway to really great content, really the best content online, hopefully, that's geared toward Christian geeks. And the another way that we kind of verbalize what our mission is at Christian Geek Central is to equip, encourage, and inspire Christian geeks to live more and more for Christ. And so what kind of things are you going to be seeing now? What kinds of content, articles, reviews, stuff like that am I going to be curating? I'm not just going to put everything from every Christian geek outlet onto Christian Geek Central, and of course I'm going to be not putting the full articles on there anyway. I'm just basically giving you a really brief synopsis on what the content is about, and then a link to the website so you can go check out the great content that they're making on their home site. So, but anyway, it will be geared toward those three identifying qualities: equipping, encouraging, and inspiring Christian geeks. So a number of Christian geek outlets are doing a combination of making content for Christian geeks and also outreach. And oftentimes there are big outlets, Christian geek outlets, that are arguably leaning more on the side of outreach and evangelism and stuff like that. And so maybe they'll put some content out that is not explicitly Christian necessarily in the content, where you could take that kind of content and find it on another site and wouldn't even be able to tell that it's from a Christian writer and stuff like that. They're just kind of creating a place online for those that maybe aren't Christian to get to know Christian geeks. And so they're not necessarily going to be explicit in all the content that they put out there, that they're coming from a Christian worldview. So those kinds of articles, those kinds of pieces, those types of reviews, I'm not going to be bringing over and pointing to from Christian Geek Central, but I will be pointing toward those pieces of content that are made, I think, with excellence, and that also are explicitly for a Christian audience, and that in some way can equip, encourage, and inspire them to live in the freedom and purpose that Christ offers for us in the context of being a geek. What does it mean to be a geek that's living for Christ when you're exploring a video game like Anthem or Killer 7, as Geeks Under Grace reviewed both of those recently. So those are the kinds of the kinds of filters I'm going to be using as I curate content over at christiangeekcentral.com. So I hope you'll come over and give that a try. You can also find the links to that same curated content by following us on Twitter at Christian_geek. All right, some more kind of in-house announcements. I am going to be making Spirit Blade Legacy Edition free forever very soon, and starting first with patrons. I'm super excited to announce that Spirit Blade Legacy Edition Part 1 in our groundbreaking Spirit Blade audio drama trilogy will soon be free forever. forever. Not only that, but for the first time, it'll be released in video format with an accompanying text commentary sharing behind-the-scenes secrets and anecdotes about how the project was made. The video version divides Spirit Blade Legacy Edition into 3 parts and will first be published weekly to Spirit Blade Productions patrons of any subscription tier beginning Monday, March 11th. So you can jump on board, right now, and you won't even be charged until the beginning of next month. But you can get on board and be on the ground floor as that thing goes live for patrons. The final part will release on Monday, March 25th, at which time the audio-only version will be released in full to patrons of all subscription tiers. Later this summer, the video version of Spirit Blade Legacy Edition will similarly be published on the Christian Geek Central YouTube channel for everyone to enjoy, and the audio version will also be made free forever at spiritblade.com and patreon.com/Spiritblade Productions. That will be part of our annual celebration of the Summer of Free, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, I hope you'll join me in sharing this news with as many as possible so that everyone has a chance to experience and look forward to this genre-bending, action-packed, and hopefully thought-provoking adventure. All right, so yeah, just as one more reminder, you can follow us at Christian_Geek for these kinds of updates and a ton more that, again, I don't include in this monthly segment. You can also get the same content and more over at christiangeekcentral.com. That's all for now. Thanks. Bye-bye.